Okay, I've covered this subject sort of piecemeal, mostly on my website, the link of which will be down in the description. But way back when early on when I started doing this, I came up with this concept of a transaction set, which basically is a visual presentation of my trades. Now, if you look at this transaction set, which as of 12/23 is an active transaction set. You see it's been running for 33 days. I usually close out a transaction set when I'm all back in cash. That way I don't have to carry any trades forward into the new chart, new spreadsheet. But anyway, if you look at the premiums collected, I've collected $5,795. Well, that sounds like a tremendous amount of income for 33 days, and it is, but I've got to take away from that any capital losses I have. Now, if I were just doing individual trades, it's easy to figure your profit or loss, but this is an ongoing stream. So the best way to define it is on a free cash flow basis. And as you can see from the formula here, free cash flow is the premiums minus the net position replacement cost. Okay. In other words, basically on every time I have a call and a put, I collect premiums both directions. And the premiums need to exceed the cost it takes to sell another put contract at the same strike. But it actually works. It does work. This has been a bad year so far. But the last time I ran a report from my broker, which is Robinhood, I had about a 10 or 11% return on investment, which is not bad. I mean, that's and it's not as much work as it seems. It's a lot of work for me because I do the website and I do the YouTube videos. That's where the work is. Actually doing the trades week after week after week it probably takes me 30 minutes a week. So if I can get a 10% return by spending 30 minutes a week, man, that's great. So, but there's been a lot of questions about this, and I understand because it's a pretty complicated kind of thing, and it's a moving target. The only way I know exactly where I stand is running the year-to-date report that I get from Robinhood, which is essentially a sum of what I paid for stuff and the sum of what I got for stuff. And in that is the premium income. Even though that's a little bit inaccurate. Remember I said that this is an ongoing stream. So when I cut off, when I do a report that has a cutoff date, I may have a position in stock that's already paid for, but it's not reflected in the income. So at the end of the year, I have to add back in, or in any report, I have to add back in the value, current market value of the stock that I have bought. Now, when I do that, then my year-to-date income, I ran that report, I think in September. Instead of it being 10 or 11 or 12%, it's more like 15%. But that's the problem with accounting. You're drawing a fence around a moving thing. And so I'm going to use an analogy of raising pigs. If I'm raising pigs, I've always got pigs, and the ones when they get big enough and fat enough, I sell them off, right? So, but I've still got pigs. So if I take everything I've invested in feed and the initial pigs versus what income I received by selling the ones I've sold, I've still got pigs. So I have to take the cost of the pigs less the income from the ones I sold off, and then add back in the market value of the pigs I still have. I hope that clarifies things for you. In a really, really good year, and I've had some good years, I've had as much as 30% free cash flow. This market has gone through some pretty hefty movements. So I'm happy if I end the year with 15% free cash flow, I'm good with that. I don't know of any other legal investment I could make that would be so profitable. So at any rate, I just thought that should be explained. And so you get some idea when you look at these charts. And I've got a page on my website, and I'll put that down in the description as well. It does a PowerPoint presentation of the whole transaction set visualization, and which makes you understand it a little better. Is that to say this is without risk? No, it's not. Back when, this has been what, around 10 or 12 years ago, when the oil industry was turned upside down with fracking, that is fracturing shale layers and pumping water under high pressure and forcing out gas and oil. That really fooled even the experts in terms of what kind of impact that was going to have on the oil market. And so consequently, we saw the oil prices just drop. And so that was my worst year ever. I had a paper loss of $170,000. But the advantage of that is that's a capital loss I can carry forward for tax purposes. And the premiums that I collected on that same stock, which was Chesapeake Energy, cut my actual losses to about 30,000. Ouch. But that's not as bad as it sounds, because back then I would have maybe 100,000, 150,000 invested in or covered contracts at the time. So I had a lot of other income coming in. But that was a case of where I jumped on Chesapeake Energy because the premiums were just, and the reason they were is because But you know, the real thing about that is I would have taken no loss on that at all, no actual loss, if I'd stayed in it. I got into that when it was like $17 a share, and I got out at $7 a share. Because my concern was, were they going to be able to survive? And if stock you have gets delisted, you can't do options on it. So that was a real concern. As it turned out, that stock went down to I don't know, less than $2. But it took a year to do that, and the premiums were just dynamite. But here again, it was really scary. That was like being on a big roller coaster and you're at the top, and now you hit the boom. Your mind says, "Okay, I'm going to be okay," but man, I'm telling you, that's a lot of gray hair from that. But anyway, the transaction set, as I pointed out, is the thing you need to thoroughly understand. And go down to to the description and look at the transaction set PowerPoint presentation to get a better idea of how that actually works, and the importance of free cash flow. I'll give you one more example of free cash flow. For years and years and years, all the airlines were taking huge losses, but most of them survived that. How did they survive it? Well, their free cash flow was good. The reason they were taking such a horrendous accounting loss is the depreciation they were taking on their aircraft. Now, the fact that the aircraft on their books was becoming less and less valuable did not reduce the amount of revenue it could produce. A little bit of a parallel here. That's one reason I sort of like consumer manufacturers like Hanesbrands International, or a retailer like American Eagle Outfitters. American Eagle Outfitters, or any retail business, typically their largest creditors are the people they buy merchandise from. And those people, unlike a bank, are hesitant to go in and demand payment on outstanding debt, because they've cut off an outlet for their goods. Back when I was young and working in my dad's retail store, I must have been 13, 14. I was doing the bookkeeping. And this was during the big time of stagflation under Jimmy Carter. For us as a retailer, it was great because the prices of our goods were going up, so the value of the stock on our shelves kept bringing larger and larger revenue. But finally, when the government came in and put a freeze on prices, Judgment Day came, in that we can no longer increase the size of our inventory based strictly on the inflation of the goods. And so if we had been in any other business besides retail, we wouldn't have survived that. It was really rough at times. But one of my suppliers, I was placing an order, and I was, I don't know, already probably 120 days late on paying for merchandise I've already bought and sold. So I placed an order one day, and I wanted him to ship that. And he says, "But you're late on paying." I said, "Well, yes, I am." He says, he hesitated a minute, and he said, "But you always pay." So rather than him decrease his sales and eventual collection on that, he kept shipping me goods. Now he put terms on that in that if I ordered $1,000 worth of goods, I had to send him a check for $500 to pay against the oldest debt. But he did that, and did that for several years. Unlike some of my suppliers who did not, and the suppliers that did not, I just simply couldn't afford to buy more merchandise from them. Anyway, I'm sorry that I digressed into that, but this whole concept of there's a difference between being a trader or investor in the market as opposed to one that's actively working the market. Hope you can see the difference there, because it's not just what I can make on a transaction today, it's what I'm going to do on the long haul. And that's where free cash flow is so terribly important, that you understand that concept. All righty. Well, it's going to get up to 78 degrees today here in Central Florida, which is a good break. We've been into some weather where it didn't get out of the high 60s. So in a few minutes, I'm going to put on my bathing suit and go down to the pool. Anyway, love Central Florida. I'm located about 35, 40-minute drive from Disney World. Not a bad place to be. Okay, rather than continue rambling, hopefully you'll use the links in the description to look at my website and these particular topics. So have a good day. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and click on the notify button so that you'll know when I release new videos. I don't do one every day, but I'm pretty close to it. So there's a lot of videos, not only on selling stock options, but my hobbies like welding and laser engraving and just whatever happens to be the hot topic of the day. Okay, take care.